Very much. Thanks for having give him a round of applause. We're going to bring Simon up. Simon Atkins, if you don't know, let me start 1 second. Kurt, someone dropped a cell phone. Check your pockets. If this is yours, it's sitting right here on the corner. Simon Atkins, my favorite weather friend, guru. I don't know what else we call you, Simon. A lot of big traders religiously follow Simon. I think a lot of us have lost a lot of money following different weather gurus through the year, but Simon has a unique twist on things. Love having him. Met him several years ago, became a family friend. He's got a unique story. I hope you guys enjoy it as much as I have. Simon, it's all you.
I want to get a good look at all of you here, all my furry, feathered friends, because I've just flown up from Uruguay and sí, yo puedo hablar español, pero nadie entiende. Who speaks Spanish here? Yeah? Have you ever had to use it in the US? Miami, good, good, good. The world is becoming an interconnected place. And I want to go over a few themes today. The name of this presentation is There Is No Box. See, in the old days, we'd think, oh, we got to think outside the box. And I want to show you today with real credibility that there is just no box. And I want to go over two themes, gaining an edge and also crossing new thresholds. Now, first of all, we listened to James saying that everything is possible. I've been doing atmospheric science for 30 years, and I've always been told that weather forecasting is impossible, especially the long range. And I kept on believing that there has to be a way. And where's our fine feathered friend, Chris Masters? Where did he go? Biovant. Where'd he go? He's out. All right. Chris told us about biologicals. And believe it or not, as a weatherman, I've studied a lot about soil. And biologicals is to soil as ions is to atmosphere. It's everything you cannot see is what is going to matter to you as farmers and ranchers and dairy farmers in the 2020s. Remember this. Everything you cannot see is what is going to become really, really important. Now look, Kevin and I go way back, probably another lifetime, and he's been putting this up on his newsletter. How many of you get the newsletter? All of you, right? All right, good. It's really cool. Love it. And he put a bunch of zebras on, and he says, dare to be different. I looked at it, and then I came back to it the next day, and I thought, wait, showing my ass is to be different, daring to be different? And I said to myself, no, this can't be. But surely, I mean, if I show my ass, maybe this is going to get me somewhere, right, in life? But no. Just a British joke aside, look at this. I'm looking at it. You guys are going to have to get used to my sense of humor here. I'm looking at it. And this zebra, I don't know, I mean, it's flatlined. This is not me. All right, this is not me. And I started looking at this, and on a serious note, I thought, well, which one am I? You know, it's really interesting to think how to be different in life. And so I went through this slide, and I thought, you know what? I don't know what this guy has on the right-hand side. I don't know if it's a tail. I don't know whether it's a stripe on his belly. But this looks good. This is me. If I'm going to be different in life, I'm going to show off my best part, and this is going to be the way I'm going to be proud of it. So, Kevin, you know, I know you chose the center one, you know, but, you know, now that New York State has about 59 different genders, I don't know what gender this one is in the middle, but it ain't me, okay? I'm the guy on the right-hand side. All right, now, I met with Trump. And he and I go back too. And he said to me, he says, damn it, Simon, I can't believe it. She just told me my hands are really small. You remember the old joke. And I said, really, Mr. President? She just told me that yesterday. God, I got to wake these guys up. All right, so listen. You know my sense of humor already as a weather guy. I'm going to have everybody read out this oath. It's called the Oath of No Sue, because I know coming up from Uruguay, you Americans, I'm American too, you know, you guys are a little litigious. So I want you to read the English version. If you're a farmer from North Dakota, you got the version on the bottom, okay? All right, so let's do it all together, okay? I, and then you insert your name. Come on. I, Simon Atkins, do solemnly swear that I will not get pissed. Come on. I never near the British or Uruguayan humor incorporated into this presentation, and I promise not to pursue any legal recourse to buy myself a nice weapon or go on an extended fishing trip to Canada in 2019. Okay? All right, now we can continue. So, this is what I think the 4 themes are for 2019 going forward. We got migration, money flows, climate, and commodity price volatility. Notice that we are right here in the center under population. We all live in a connective risk web. And people are going to help us with that risk, and people are going to hinder us. What's happening on the southern border? You think Trump's going to close the southern border? You watch what happens in 2019. There's going to be big games. And I bet you, bottom to dollar, there will be probably a 1-week test period where we will close that southern border. And everybody will be all up in arms. Brand new things are coming. Remember the title of this speech, There Is No Box. We are in brand new territory. I don't care whether you're in farming. There's new weather coming. We already see that. There's new presidential tactics. There's new global tactics. China's going to ramp up the war, the trade war, to all kinds of new things. See, not only am I an atmospheric scientist, but for 15 years I studied global economy. So I'm a climate economist. So I put together the climate and the weather, and we get impacts. And Andy knows this, and Kevin knows this. And we are going to see major issues with migration. People leaving countries that they no longer want to be in. And that's going to affect farming. But you've got to think there is no box. How does migration affect farming? When they close that southern border, how is it going to affect vegetables and fruits growing in California? How is that going to rip along? So what I'm trying to say to you here, coming up from Uruguay today, is I want you to start thinking out of the box, but beyond. There's no box. You can't just stay on your farm in North Dakota or Wisconsin and think, oh, I hope the yields are going to be good next year and I hope the weather's nice to me. If you're doing that, like James would say, you're not going to get the abundance you want. Because A, you're in fear, you're not empowering yourself with new knowledge, and C, you're probably going to go by the wayside and other people are going to beat you. I'm not saying you always have to be the best, but you got to start figuring out how these things come in. Because people will say, well, I hope my yield's 172 in corn next year, or I hope August is nice and rainy for my soybeans, and I hope the price of corn is going to go above $6. But if it doesn't, what backup plan do you have? And once we know the weather, which I'm going to go over in 2019, I think we're going to start figuring out a lot of these pieces. Now, remember I told you that there is no box, and there's gaining an edge and crossing the thresholds. I want to start with gaining an edge. Now, I know this lady, she's like your zebra, right? She's like this. So, but she's more cute than me, Kevin. So maybe she'll be okay on this. But you have to think without boundaries. The moment you start boxing yourself in and start talking about a yield number that you hope you're going to get, you probably won't get there because there's so many elements beyond control. So you have to start taking each element that you think is beyond your control and get into the program. Remember this that came out? Kevin also had this in his newsletter, that the 4th National Climate Assessment Report came out. I just want to tell you, this is a load of shit. Okay, I got to be blunt with you. I got to be blunt as a climate scientist. This puts you in a lot of fear. Have you read it? How many of you have read it? Seriously read it? Okay, good. One. Okay, you know what most of you said? You looked on CNN or you went to Fox News and they told you that you are basically screwed. Okay? That Midwest farmers are going to have more drought, more heat waves, more floods. There's going to be wildfires coming into the plains. God knows how, but they're coming, supposedly. And you are royally SOL. Okay? And I'm telling you, stop being in fear. Become empowered. I mean, that's why we're all here today. See, I went off to Uruguay searching for new meadows 6 years ago. I found one. I'm still an American citizen. I'm a Uruguayan citizen. I'm an English citizen. But I don't call myself either one. I don't call myself an American. I call myself a global caregiver now. Because I want to come up here. I flew these 10,000 miles to give you this message that these types of reports are garbage. They're to instill more fear in the general population so that most people don't get ahead. And that's a deep tunnel to go down. But you have to stop being in fear and become empowered. There is bad weather coming, but there's also amazing weather coming. Now this freaks me out because I had no idea James was what he was going to be talking about. And his theme was all about stepping into your journey. And that's what I had to do on a personal level too. I won't go into my whole story, but there is no global warming. And maybe there is the chemtrails and the other stuff and the DEW. Does anybody know what DEW is? Direct energy weapons. See, half of you don't know what that is. And that's scary, not because I'm looking down on you, I'm not. But if you don't know what DEW is, you better start looking it up. You've seen the pictures of the wildfires in California? How houses were melted down and the trees were standing right next to them? That's what you call a magnetic discharge fire. Oh, they have an expression in Uruguay, it says, ojo, meaning, yeah, you missed a point. All right? And look, 30 years ago, 20 years ago, 10 years ago, we used to think chemtrails were just a conspiracy theory, right? And the government kept on saying, no, we're not spraying. Now they admit it. You may have missed that memo too. It came over on CNN, came over on the White House. Yes, we're spraying. You know what really pisses me off? God, Kevin, I got to get this out to everybody. Really pisses me off that the government scientists now have just come out and said it's easy and cheap to spray the skies and to block out the sun because we've got to stop this runaway global warming. Can you believe this? You look up about 30% of the year in the sky. We've even got it here in Kansas City today. These are not 100% real clouds. And I understand there's going to be 22 to 32% of you that are going to say, yeah, I went down to Kansas City and there was this crazy, dumbass, Uruguayan, British, American, whatever weather guy. And I think he's crazy. Well, maybe at the end of this presentation, you'll be wondering, is James crazier or is me crazier? Because there's, as they say in Uruguay, there's loco bueno and there's loco malo. And you know what I'm talking about down in Miami. There's a lot of loco malo in Miami, bad crazy. I'm talking about good crazy. And if you're not good crazy, if you're not waking up passionate every single day about what you're doing, you might be in the wrong space. See, because if I hadn't have believed in this long-range forecasting, and if I hadn't have done the research on the global warming to tell you here today that there is none, what message do I have? Oh, it's going to be partly cloudy and 70 degrees tomorrow. I mean, you don't want to hear that. I mean, Kevin can hire any weather guy to come up and give you, yeah, it's going to be raining like cats and dogs next July in Iowa. No, you're not going to believe him anyway. Yeah, we'll see. Right? I know the mentality of that. But this is where it is so important in 2019 going forward. And I got to say, Jordan, I got to pick on you, man. You have come a long freaking way in 4 years. And I'm going to give a round of applause to Jordan because we met 4 years ago. He was in high school. and he didn't know what he was going to do, and he stepped into his journey, and I see him to now, man. It gives me shivers. I'm proud of you, man. Let's give Jordan a round of applause. Yeah, because there's not many people that step into their journey, and especially Jordan, he's doing it at a young age. Don't kill me later, man. I know you're bigger than me. All right, let's go to the next one, because I got so much to tell you today. Part 2 about crossing new thresholds is learning more about the sun. You're hearing a lot about the sun recently, about NASA's finding these weird magnetic fluctuations in the atmosphere coming from the sun. They're talking about the solar minima and how this is going to cause a lot of global cooling. See, it's really weird, right? The media is talking about global warming, yet NASA's talking about global cooling and how the government's preparing for all these seed vaults and about building tunnels under cities. It's not a conspiracy theory. It's all happening. But why this opposite? And I get it. You wake up and you're like, hey, Marge, how you doing? Fine. How you? Fine. And we go through days like this. But let's jazz it up a little bit. Let's really learn what is going on. See, I'll say this politely, and I'll just be blunt as a stone. 70% of us in this room are living in this box. Little hole to breathe. See, I was taught at Cornell University not to think out of the box. And my professors in the 80s used to threaten me, Simon, you'll get an F if you give a 10-day forecast in front of everybody. They told me only give a 3-day forecast because that's where the technology is right now. I said, well, I think I have some equations for a 10-day forecast. Simon, you know what I've warned you. You're going to get an F if you go to the whole 10 days. Well, from listening to me for the last 15 minutes, you know what I did, right? Yeah, I gave that 10-day forecast, and I was like, yeah, I'm going to do it. And he gave me an F. But the 10-day forecast came so accurate. I was so happy. And that's why I'm up here today. Because I actually went out of that box. I jumped out. I didn't know it was a frying pan. I didn't know if it was a big ocean. But I did it. And I'm almost getting down on my knee, actually, and I'm asking you as farmers, supporting the agriculture of the best nation in the planet, we got to go further. Because the shit's going to get hairy in the 2020s. It really is. And you need to know this. I'm not instilling fear. I'm simply saying that the weather, from what we know, is really going to change. 1 out of 2 of us in our lifetime will get cancer. How many of you in the last 5 years have known somebody with cancer? More than 1 out of 2. This is the first untruth of today because it affects us all. The doctors will tell you chemotherapy and radiation can get rid of your cancer. It's complete hogwash with iguana spit on top. You like that? You can use that. Hogwash with iguana spit on top. Okay? This doesn't work. They've just proven that chemotherapy causes more cancer. Simon, come on. I studied natural medicine for 14 years in India. It was a side passion. I got my doctorate degree in natural medicine, and I help cure cancer in Uruguay. And thank God James is with us here today. Okay, let's do the impossible again. I wanted to build a healing center, but I didn't have the cash. So I got a group of people together. I said, listen, I don't have the cash right now. Will you help me build this healing center? And they said, yeah, let's do it. Just got built. And we're doing healing of cancer, and we're working with hospitals down there in reducing the size of the tumors, and they're showing us the results. And I'm going to show you today how we're doing it. Some of you will be interested, and some of you won't, and that's okay. Some of you will take it to the bank, just like Chris Master said, and some of you will lose it. But at the right time, you may remember this, and it may save somebody's life. Let's go to the second untruth. The old weather map, still used today on the Weather Channel, is absolute bull. Okay? There's so much more than high pressures and cold fronts. All weather is energy moving that you cannot see. And what did Chris talk about? There's ions in the soil. That's what's going to improve your productivity. And we'll get to that, by the way. Everybody looks at what is the average farmland price, right, in Iowa? And they look at the chart and they're like, okay, yeah, $4,520 per acre. You could easily increase that in your own land by 30%. I've got some ideas for you today. But this is an untruth. And this is the third untruth. Just like what I was saying. Look, right, Kevin, we do this all the time. We look at the value and we say what? In 2019, I hope the value goes up to 3,360. But if you put a bunker on your land, if you put a pyramid set to deflect hail, or if you put soil bacteria sludge on your land, you're going to double your value. And you may be saying, well, wait, why do I need a bunker? Why do I need a bunker? To protect things. The farmers that are really in the know, they're building these new bunkers on their farmland. It's amazing stuff. How about the pyramids? The Russians have done over 50 years of research that if you put pyramids in an octagonal format around your land, there's such thing as a pyramidal force, and it will deflect all the large hail and the downdrafts over your land with 80% confidence. Now, a lot of you are going to say, that's crazy. I get it. I thought it was crazy too. I'm like, those damn Russians, you know, they don't know anything. But then we started proving it on our own land in Solis. I set up a pyramid, and after 3 weeks, these weird lines in the grass started connecting the pyramids with the crystals. I had people come over, and they tested it all out, and there were electromagnetic lines being set up through the pyramids. We had a really bad thunderstorm come through, and the hail went down the road. That could have been a coincidence. I got to test it more. But ideas, empower yourself. Of that 70%, remember the box with the little breathing hole? Less than half open it. But there's still a box. And I'm coming to you from the Southern Hemisphere to say, there's no box. There's just no box. And one person said to me, well, what if I jump out of the box? Where will I be? Well, there's another box. You got to stop thinking of boxes. There's no box. There's no boundaries. I used to think that weather is just in the earth, like there's a box on the earth. No, no, no. 70% of weather comes from the sun and cosmic rays. So that's what we're studying to do the long-range weather. So here's the major theme. Think like there's no box. So remember the untruth about the chemotherapy and the radiation? In the 2020s, those people that will be surviving will kill the cancer by raising their vibration. And there's something on the bottom called pulsed electromagnetic frequencies, PEMF. It is unbelievable. What it does is it raises the vibration of the body, and the cancer simply disappears. So I thought, I want to help the world in this, so we made a site. Check it out. I don't get any money from this, but just check it out. It's called energymedicinecenters.com. If you know anybody with cancer, we're going to step out beyond the box. There's no box. Check it out. There's about 17 different ways to cure cancer. All right. Here are other ways: laser, PEMF, RIFE, oncothermia, cold press juicing, grounding. These are ways to cure cancer. And you may have honestly read this and said, Simon, I may know what laser is, and I think I know what cold press juicing is. I don't really know what the others. If you say to yourself in your heart that you don't understand one of those, you deserve it to yourself, to your family, to your friends, whoever's suffering, to go back and look at this. Now, wait. Why is this on weather? Because it's all connected through electromagnetics. Weather is electromagnetics. Health is electromagnetics. I've been doing electromagnetic therapy for the last 7 years on myself, and I'll be 50 in a few months, and I feel like 30. And when I was 30, I felt like 50. So I'm telling you, I know it works. I just feel great. And I don't even do half the workouts, or not even like 1/100th of what James does. So look at this. I want to read this out. Read it out in your mind, that you must learn a new way to think before you can master a new way to be. It's all about how you think. And wasn't that what James told us today? How did he get through? He pushed himself through his mind. So what you do is you connect the third eye and the heart, which, by the way, will always tell you the right intuition. All right? When all of us fall in love, this tells us. Always go with this, never this. And you connect these two, and then you learn a new way to think. So we took a brand new approach to weather forecasting. And there are actually now it's proven with NASA, that there are energy columns going over the Earth. And this is what an illustration would show them to be. Then there was another scientist in Singapore, bless her heart, she's only 23 years old, and she noticed that there's these electromagnetic pulsing tubes that transfer energy, and they cause extremes in weather. So we took her research with her permission, and now we can monitor the magnetics anywhere in the world going out 18 months with 80% confidence. So we're making a lot of energy traders, commodity houses, millions and millions of dollars through this magnetic research. Now, we don't get them all right, but we've got about an 80% accuracy going out 12 months now. And we started in 1993. Now, remember the truth on the land prices in the US? Most people in here are just considering USA land. And I'm saying to you, whatever happened to our grandfathers talking to us about the world is an oyster? Get out there. It's amazing what you can do in buying land in Senegal or Argentina. And look at Brazil. Look at the difference in price between Brazil, an acre, and the UK or New Zealand or Argentina. Now you may be saying, well, Simon, you know, how do I buy land in Brazil? I mean, like where would I start? I mean, what would be like the easiest way to start? And I don't know, I mean, you know, I'm just thinking, okay, well, maybe you go down there and you just see what happens. You just take your potluck, you know? And we did a little research internally, and apparently this is the best site. So I saved you a lot of trouble. We went through 21 different websites for Brazilian women, and it's called Brazil Cupid. So, you know, I see a couple of you back there noting down. Good. He's not thinking in the box. All right? By the way, we had a great farmer. Do you know Mark Judowski? How many of you know Mark Judowski up in North Dakota? He went down to Brazil, and, well, he got really lucky. He's now married with a Brazilian babe, and they're up in North Dakota, and they just had a little kid. So that's one way to build a Brazil connection there. And, you know, I mean, CNN type, you know, they agree with me too. I mean, and by the way, this is just the opposite. And I know some of you out there like coding. What is that? I'm not going to explain what coding is, okay? I'm just a weatherman, all right? But here's this babe, I think she's from Brazil, and she's with her husband, and then she's holding this other guy's hand. Look, I turn away from all this, all right? I'm just studying clouds and, you know, magnetics and stuff like that. But this is a real article, by the way, on CNN. And, God, no matter, is it no wonder that Trump is talking about fake media and all this kind of stuff? So look, let's get through the first part of this. We got to plant new seeds, like metaphorically, right? Climate's changing. Everything is shifting much faster. Think of your brain, think of those new seeds, and sort of just grow in different direction. So please note my blue highlight on the bottom of this slide. Besides the Brazilian dating slide, this might be the most important slide of the presentation. And the reason is because we actually did 14 years of research to get this one slide here today. We finally finished it in October. And it's our long-range prediction into the 2020s for 3 areas: disaster, neutral, or abundance. If you are in the red, you are effed. Okay? I mean, I just can't help you. You've either got to move, you've got to find a Brazil baby, or do something else, think that there's no box. If you are in blue, oh my God, you are looking at huge, huge successes. All right? And if you're in the white, hey, no pasa nada. Nothing new is going to happen. Now, let me show you what this is. So this is all based on magnetic flow. And this is based on the magnetics from the Earth, how the sun is shifting, soil, you name it, magnetics. And what we did is we realized that the red areas are full of positive ions. Positive ions are bad for health. Negative ions are really good for health. For example, when you go along the beach, right, and I do this every day in Uruguay as much as I can, basically those are emitting negative ions, and it feels good. They've actually proven negative ions is good for you. So all these blue areas are going to be full of negative ions, all the red areas are going to be full of positive ions. So I'm saying to you that within reasonable accuracy, we think that the yields, the agricultural yields, now you can wait till 2029, you could say, Simon, yeah, I'm effed, you were right. Okay, you can wait the 10 years, or you can ask for more research, I'll send it to you. But basically, to Chicago, down into Illinois, we think that the yields are going to decrease because of the changing magnetics, and I will get into this. If you're in the Dakotas, we think that land values will go up. Now, based upon magnetics, and remember, this is all going to come into the new language, okay? 10 years ago, we didn't know that there was 59 different genders, okay? I just thought there's a boy and there's a girl, right? And now there's binary and God knows what else, okay? I just can't take it, all right? I just can't deal with it because it's just not my language. But what I'm saying to you is the sun is going to shift and the magnetics is going to shift. And this is going to be probably a good, accurate representation. Like if you're in West Kansas, you've got to start maybe putting up these pyramids. You've got to start, putting the bacteria into the soil. There's other ways to deal with it. All right, well, let's move on. And this just came out last February, that a former NOAA scientist is going to start getting more whistleblowers. I actually consider myself a little bit of a whistleblower, but they actually confirmed that they've manipulated the data records. So if you're looking for weather data, you've got to make sure that you get the old data, not the new data, because the new data is about 3 Celsius warmer and supports this whole global warming so they can spray the skies. Scouts honor. This is what they're doing, okay? If you come down to Uruguay, you'll see still dark blue skies, like it was here in the 80s, right? You take a note of this. I know you're listening. In the next 30 days, you count how many skies are really dark blue, and there won't be many. And you'll remember that there was a lot more. So they're manipulating things, and then this just came out on the 15th of November, how they're admitting that they did a math error to deduce global warming. And how much space does this get on CNN and Fox and MSNBC? Close to a big fat 0. They don't want people knowing. So there's fake weather now. So now we have to get through all of this fake weather data to get our own predictions. And then again, it was painting a very grim picture for the Midwest and the Northern Plains. Here's the site on MSNBC. It basically, that was the title, Federal Climate Change Report Paints Grim Picture for Midwest. How many Midwestern farmers do you think made a decision that day or that week that they weren't going to do farming anymore based on this? I bet you it's at least one. I bet you. And it's a shame because this is what it's all about, just pumping in fear. It's not like this. They talk about, look, rising temperatures in the Midwest are projected to be the largest contributing factor to declines in U.S. agricultural productivity. It's garbage. It's just garbage. There's going to be cold. There's going to be heat. All right? It's amazing. And this is how we were taught in the old days, how the weather flow goes around the earth. That's all gone false now because of the magnetics. How many of you have seen the Northern Lights? Beautiful, right? Did you ever know what it is? Shout it out if you know. Well, wait, you can't read the slide though. It's electromagnetic energy. This is how the planet functions. And so when these lights come in, you better believe it that it affects the weather. And that's where we all started. We started studying this energy and then manipulated it out. And by the way, space weather gives you all of these alerts so you can sign up to this. And they start talking about explosions in the magnetic tail and tearing instabilities. It sounds very sexual to me. But basically, this is the magnetic field exploding, and the magnetics are going to be changing more extreme, so that we have more extremes coming in all seasons based upon this. And then get this. How many of you saw this article that came out on Zero Hedge about a month ago? Nobody. Wow. Okay. So basically, out of Antarctica, all of these magnetic columns started rising out of the continent, and they couldn't explain why. Now you may say, well, this doesn't really affect me, Simon. It's way down there. It's down near Uruguay, and I'm not coming down to see you anyway. And basically, I couldn't give a damn. But the reason why this is important is it's going to happen very soon in the North Pole, and it's going to come down like treacle on a pudding over the 2020s. So you're going to start getting more of these magnetic columns. And by the way, do you know how people think? You got synapses, right, in the brain? What fires in between those synapses? Electrical energy. And that's how we think. So if the frequencies from the sun change the earth, people also change. And that's why you've been seeing a lot of people going absolute nuts recently. Raise your hands if you've been seeing a lot of people go more nuts than usual. Yeah, come on, you're like, yeah. My auntie, my neighbor, I want to shoot him. Right? That's because the frequencies on the planet are shifting and less people are being grounded. And then they actually captured this, a weird noise. Now, I'm only showing you these articles because this is actual truth. We're backing this up. There's all of this magnetic spectral anomalies happening in Antarctica, and it's actually getting rid of El Nino. So by the way, when you hear about El Nino, that's all fake weather news too now. There's no El Nino, okay? There's new oscillations that are taking over El Nino. So when you hear about El Nino and then they get you all fired up, there's going to be drought in the Midwest in 2019. No, there's not. So you've got to be really thinking, there's no box, and you've got to think, okay, do I want to believe this? You've got a choice to believe anything I'm saying today. And that's one of my major themes in thinking there's no box. Stop believing everything you read, because you're making decisions based on information that you don't know is accurate. You saw the federal climate report. You don't know if that's accurate. You're just taking it for, okay, they're government scientists, and yeah, I guess I believe them. But I'm telling you it's fake. So if you put in garbage out or garbage in, you're going to get garbage out. Here it is. How many of you saw in this article about the solar minima? Have you seen anything about the solar minima recently? No. See, this is all very, very new. NASA's coming into it. CNN did have it, okay? But it's basically when there's a 7 to 11 year cycle of ups and downs in the sunspots, in the down period, the Earth goes colder. And by the way, I've got a slide for you. 2 years within a solar minima, 90% in history shows us a stock market decline. Now that's interesting, right? Let me say that again. 2 years, within 2 years of a solar minima, which is happening in 2019, 90% of the time in history, research, they've done it, all the research, shows us a stock market major decline. It's very interesting once you start empowering yourself with information. Here, this is very, very kind of geeky. But I want to show it to you to show you a little scientific proof. They're saying now that there's, due to very low scientific activity, by the way, which is changing the photosynthetic rate. How many of you thought, by the way, in the last year, your grass didn't sort of grow properly or it looked kind of a little bit weird at times? Yeah? Okay, a couple of people in the back. Okay, more and more people are noticing, wait a sec, something's not right. And what you're going to see is you may get the 172 BPA, but the quality of the corn is going to start decreasing because they're spraying and because the magnetics are changing on the sun. So it basically will start lowering the photosynthetic rate, and this is what this is talking about. But again, remember what I said from the beginning. 70% of us live in that box, and we're just going to either wait or we're just going to do nothing. It's all our choice. And that, by the way, is a part of the exciting 2020s. I think it's going to be all about the choice, the choices we make, where we live, who we hang out with. It's always been that way, but it's really going to be accelerated as we go through this crazy magnetic zone. Here's the chart basically saying how it responds to solar activity. And here it is, warning of solar sunspots and the cold that's coming. And here's talking about the frequency. There's no need to get into any of the details. You can study this at home when Kevin and his crew start sending out the discs. The point that I want to get to you is things are really going to get hairy new. We're going into a very different climate spectral range due to the magnetics. And here's the slide, because I wanted to bring up the research to you and save hours and hours of time. This goes back to 1901, up here. This was the panic of 1901 at the solar minima. And then we've got here 1952, for example, the commodities crash. This happened at the bottom of a solar cycle. All right, and this is going to be the next one, 2019. Okay, bottom, the panic or the crash. And it's coming right up, right here. And then there'll be another one probably in 2029, 2040. So notice they're every 10 or 11 years. All right, this is backed up research. NASA knows this. Government programs know this. They're getting already ready. They know the buttons to push. But again, you hear it from CNN and other fake news media sites that, oh, we don't know when it's going to come. Or they'll have all these pundits come on saying about the crash, and yet it will keep on going and going and going. Did you know that in the public there's 37 layers of information? 37 layers. So let's say you have a story about the sun. The public will get level 1, 2, or 3. Right? That's your secret clearance, which is basically none. Trump may get level 30, and then above him, sure. See, most people didn't even know that there's stuff above the president. Look up the Committee of 300. This is what I'm talking about. There's no box. There's no stratifications. It's all new stuff. And we are becoming aware to this. Look at this map. You ever seen this? It's called the planetary grid, and it's based on magnetic crystalline structure, and it's built like a honeycomb. See, everything talks about natural stuff, and in each one of these zones is where the magnetic explosions come, and then it bursts off different weather anomaly extreme events. You see number 18 right here? Where is that? Shout it out. Where is that? Bermuda Triangle. There are magnetic oscillations that are rapidly go very extreme over these areas. And they actually cause dimensional shifts. In dimensional shifts, the magnetic frequencies go haywire. There's no gravity, there's nothing. And people go into other dimensions. Now, this sounds crazy, I know. It's just about as crazy to me as saying, Simon, you know, you've got to do 50 marathons or 50 triathlons in 50 days. That's crazy to me. So whatever you think is crazy, you're not going to look at it. But I am going to look into doing a little bit more exercise based on what James has told me today. That's my first step. So maybe your first step is, oh, I go to Google, I look up planetary grid, see what Simon's talking about. Because near these areas is where you're going to get extreme events. Look at this, number 8, up here in Montana and Wyoming. That's Yellowstone. Some really freaky weather goes on up there. And this is our research. We actually take these honeycomb cells, hexagonal cells, and we are able to redistribute the magnetics so that we can then forecast to you where the extremes are going to come. So we have farmers in the audience here that are clients, and we tell them when the extremes will happen, and we give them many weeks and months notice. All right, so this is in the next 2 weeks. And in December, we've got big cold air masses coming down into the continental US. This would be like a slide that we tell clients. And we've got the big southwest flow. That's going to warm up the plains big time in March and April. It's going to be a very, very warm spring in 2019 with 85% confidence. But before that, January, into mid-January, it's going to be very, very cold. And we're going to start seeing that next week. In fact, here's a zoom. We got the southwest flow. It's a magnetic wheel. We call it this because it's basically going to just pile in the warmth in the spring. And then we've got the cold coming down from something called the MPV, which is the magnetic polar vortex. It's a lot of information to take in. I get it. But this is just the new seed. All right? That's what it's all about. It's about planting the seed and then taking it from there, anything that you feel is good. We also monitor different places like Brazil. Brazil's going to have flooding rains because a new oscillation from Antarctica came up. It's called the Magnetic Antarctic Oscillation. And it's going to cause a ton of rain and put a lot of bearish pressure on corn and soybeans through December. It's going to really rain, and it's going to really be abundant. And it's really going to help the Brazil crop a ton going into Christmas, again, with 85% confidence. All right, so let's go into the long-range forecast, and then we can go to some questions. So this is for March next year. And sort of, as you look at these maps, I want you to look at the legend on the left. This is temperatures, and you're basically going to see where you're closest to on the actual little bubbles. So if you're in, for example, if you're in Chicago, this is yellow, meaning above normal. But you can see basically where the heat is. It's coming in from the west. All the west is warm. And then it's basically going to wipe up from Texas. We're expecting a big heat wave in the Texas Panhandle that's probably going to really affect cattle prices because it's going to cause early stress to the young cattle. And then that southwest flow will wipe into the Midwest. And for everywhere except the green areas in the Midwest, you guys will have a earlier than usual last freeze. In April, the heat is really going to come into the western US, and it's going to come up into Mexico and again in Texas and Florida, the southeast, and it's going to come basically in waves, in pulsating waves. So it's going to be, we're expecting a very warm Midwestern spring. Now look what happens in May, June, and July. One thing you're going to have to really contend with, and this is again with 82% confidence, that if you're doing genetics on your crops, I really recommend going hotter, okay? And we'll get into the precip. Not necessarily hotter and drier. Depends where you are. We've got a ton of rain coming up into the Midwest, and that's going to be, I think, your biggest challenge. It's not going to be necessarily the heat, because the rain will temper it out, but it's going to be very humid. So in the first half to the middle of the summer, we're reckoning with high confidence that you guys will get really high dew points and high minimum temperatures. That's going to be one of your challenges. But bar none, you can see how the heat is coming out of the west and going all the way up into Canada. And then the second half of summer, the west is going to be, the heat's going to be piling into the west, where it starts getting really cool in the Ohio Valley, probably in, let's say, early September. But if you're in the upper Midwest, it's green to yellow, and that would probably mean about near normal to slightly above. But again, we do these maps for each month or for each quarter, and we've had really good success with this. Now let's go into the precip, because I think that this is where you guys really need to know the difference of what's going to happen. So this is March, and most of you, I guess, are thinking of planting and prepping the soil. a lot of moisture and big storms are going to start forming over Texas and Oklahoma. And then that blue will come up into the lower Ohio Valley and up into the northern plains. Notice on the left-hand side again is your legend. So if you're in the blue category, you've got a ton of rain coming, and the greens are going to be near normal. Okay, so anywhere near the yellow on the left where it says 100, that's normal. So you can see how the rain comes up. But look what happens. It gets really, really interesting. April is the only month of drought that we are forecasting for much of the Midwest. And you can see I've got the circle here of the Corn Belt. Anywhere where it's red and deep orange, this is probably 80%, 60 to 80% below normal precip. All right, so you're going to have a pretty wet March, and it's going to literally, the spigot of the water tap is going to literally be turned off. It's going to be really something. But look at Texas. Big, big thunderstorms again. And so when you get years where the thunderstorms start in Texas, that's big trouble for the Midwest. And look at this. This may be the most important slide to you guys as farmers for next year. This is really going to be something. All of those blues, let's say from eastern Nebraska, eastern Iowa, or most of Iowa, into Chicago, Michigan, Ohio Valley, this is flash floods and dangerous storms. And remember what I've said, the magnetics is opening up and expanding. So there's going to be more downdrafts, bigger hail. This is why I'm starting to suggest alternative ways to control your productivity. Just look into Google, pyramidal magnetic strength, and you'll see that how pyramids actually change the energy. All these secrets have been blocked from us for years, but the Egyptians knew this when they made them in Egypt. And look at this. This, I think, is going to be very problematic. So I think, having a warm and a wet first half of the summer is going to be good. Productivity is going to be really good. I don't see many problems. I think there'll be a lot of pressure on price, at least at the weather risk level. But here's where we've got problems. Now, everybody likes rain in August for soybeans, but I think the storms are going to get pretty intense. And there could be a lot of flooding over multiple states. Now, I realize rain makes grain, but the harvest is going to be tricky. So what I wanted to do is try to bring some of the themes in now so you can kind of try to plan ahead during the winter months. I want to summarize my presentation today by saying a quote from Nikola Tesla. And he once said, if you want to find the secrets of the universe, you have to think in terms of energy, frequency, and vibration. We say now that over 90% of what we cannot see is what is actually making the world. So while we're looking for news about China and things like that, we really have to go back and think, well, what is the vibration of China right now? What is happening there? What are all the things happening that were not that are not being said in China? And that's really, really important, because I think in probably less than 10 years, they tell us it's going to be all about robotics, but it's also going to be about energy medicine, energy healing. People are going to need to be grounded. Big pharmaceutical usage by Americans has gone up 60% in the last 5 years. Why is that? Our research shows that it's due to the frequency shift. People are literally going more and more local. And, it may sound funny, it may sound really strange, but this is something that I think as a 1,000-person group, we can think of and see the future. And here's something really important. I'll read it out to you, permit me. People who generate exciting and lasting growth opportunities do not think outside the box. They simply refuse to believe there is any kind of box to begin with. And I say to you all, namaste. Thank you. Alrighty, I'll take any questions that you may have on this.
Simon, explain grounding. I've gotten a couple of gifts as of late from more eclectic friends on the grounding, and it's interesting. Tell people about it.
Yeah, so Kevin's asked about grounding. What is it? So basically, grounding is connecting your energy field with that of Gaia. Let me explain. So, we are flesh and bones and water and other things that zebras like to boast about. And you knew that was coming. And basically, we are also an energy field. And this energy field has like Swiss whole cheese in it. When we're low or we are sleep deprived, we get holes in that energy field and we get viruses enter into us. With grounding, what you do is you go barefoot on the soil, on your grass in the morning, at the beach, especially on sand, is very, very high negative ionic discharge. So when we get that discharge coming up into our bodies, it strengthens our electromagnetic field so we don't get ill. Touch wood, I haven't been ill in a long time because I'm grounding every single day. It's basically the connection with Mother Earth. And if you think about it, Americans actually have some of the worst foot problems in the world because we wear shoes literally 14 to 15 hours a day. You cannot find a podiatrist in India because they're barefoot. Now, I understand we can't all be barefoot all day, but I'm doing conference calls without wearing any shoes or socks. Okay, so some people ask, Simon, are you barefoot again? That's the joke. Yeah, I am. But I'm grounding, and I feel really sort of vivacious. The more grounding you can do, the more passion you have in life. It's when you lose your connection with the grounding energy of Earth, that's when you become stagnant. That's where you feel like sludgy. So, yeah, it's going to be all about grounding in the 2020s and other things like that. Let's have another question.
Simon, I'm with you. I believe that global warming, climate change is political.
Ooh, yeah.
How do we combat the theory, or I guess maybe it's factual, that the polar ice cap is shrinking to somebody that believes, they say they believe in global warming? What's your argument against that?
Well, basically, the polar regions of the planet, the Arctic and the Antarctic, are actually volcanic. There's big volcanoes under both, and NASA's gradually bringing out this news too, and it takes a long time for people to catch up. I mean, you tell a lie 1,000 times, and then you tell the truth. It takes a while for those 1,000 lies or 1,000 times lies to really go out of the public space. So basically, you've got geothermal heat, millions of degrees of heat coming through the bedrock, and it melts the ice from the bottom up. Now, if you take a glass of water and you put ice in it and you watch it patiently for 15 minutes, I'll guarantee you that the melting happens from the bottom up. It's not from the top down. The Arctic does not go much above 32 Fahrenheit. So when they talk about this polar warming, or they talk about a new iceberg that's just broken off of Antarctica the size of Rhode Island, it's a natural process. Again, it's all just to keep pushing this same political global theme so that everybody is like, okay. And nobody questions anything. Nobody's conscious. Nobody's asking questions. They're even teaching this now in kindergarten, in school, in most nations now. Don't ask questions. And it's on the TV channels. They have programs about that. I could talk to you forever on that. But basically, the geothermal volcanic fissures open up. They let out a huge amount of steam and heat, and it melts the icebergs. And this is a cycle just like the sun. So 95% of it is natural. All right, how about another question? Yes, sir.
What's in the chemical? Why?
Yeah, well, right, that's okay. So the question is, what are these chemtrails? What's in them? And why? I mean, why? Why are we having it? Well, if you got your pen ready, I'll give you the few links that you can look up. We've done all this research, and we go around the world telling people. It's called stratospheric radiation, or stratospheric solar management. All right, it's called SRM. The government has absolutely told us what this is. They want to block out the sun so that they can reduce the temperature of the planet, because they've basically gone on to some political warp theme saying that we need to cool the planet. And don't forget, they fiddled with the temperatures in the first place, so the temperatures are actually much lower than they are saying them to be. So what they do is they want to block out the sun. And you just type into Google, scientists want to block out the sun. Always empower yourself by putting in the major themes. And you'll come across all of these articles and talking about scientists at the University of Berkeley trying to persuade the government not to do this because we're going to go runaway cooling, and then we're going to get really bad things happen to our agriculture. So basically what they do is they combine aluminum and boron and other metals, all right, that separate the water molecules. So the more positive ions that you spray into the atmosphere, it causes the rain droplets to unstick, and it can't rain. Now, the old days, they were using cloud seeding, so they'd actually spray silver iodide into the atmosphere, and downwind, it wouldn't rain. Beijing did it for the Olympics, even. But now they've gotten really bad. Now they're actually spraying poisons in the air that actually include neurotoxins. And again, you know, we think, oh, Simon, come on, this must be a conspiracy theory. No, the government's admitting to it. They'll even tell you on their website now all the chemicals that they're spraying into the atmosphere. And yeah, about 17 to 32% of it gets down to the ground. And that's why more and more kids are getting cancer, tumors in their head. You look up the research. I've done it. I've got a degree in energy medicine. So I started understanding. I've got 2 small kids. Why in North America and why in the Northern Hemisphere are more kids getting tumors in their brains? Because we're spraying more neurotoxins. It's a very, very large R-squared correlation causative effect. And it's very sad. But the more people that wake up and become conscious, we can stop doing this. Now, my challenge to you, sir, is to look up and make a note and do a graph. And you say basically 0 to 10, if the sky is clear and it looks good, like you'll know intuitively if it looks good, you put a 10. If it's bad, like what is that big line, you know, that's spraying in the sky, then you put a 0. Okay, probable chemtrail. And you'll go into images.google.com, and you'll type in chemtrails. And it will give you a load of pictures of what they look like. But now, because more and more people know about it, they're changing the formula of the chemtrails and they're changing the ways they spray. So instead of in the daytime, now they're spraying at night. And then you can look up on flight radar, all these military planes now that are flying at 40,000 feet. Again, it's all out there. It's not me just making this thing up. I wouldn't embarrass myself. But they're basically flying up at 40,000 feet. And they do it right before a cold front comes through so that it rains down. And there's scientists now, as well as farmers in Oregon and California, that are noticing that the aluminum and boron is now in their soil samples. So it's really getting deep. And they're going to be doing more and more of this, and it's going to change the photosynthetic rate. And those that put up their hands regarding the grass is not growing properly. It's like stunted. And if you're in an area where these chemtrails are being sprayed a lot, you'll notice this more and more. So people are talking. Some people will laugh it off. Oh, come on, that's crazy. And so that's okay. They're not on the exact path right now to realize this truth. So thank you for your question, sir. Yes, sir.
My friend has a question he's scared to ask, but how big do those pyramids need to be? He lives in a really hail zone.
Beautiful.
Tabletop.
Beautiful. We got one man that's interested in putting pyramids on his land. And, sir, you will be mocked. It's like that crazy guy that followed the crazy Simon. They're together and they're into something. But he's going to start boasting about 20 extra bushels per acre on his yield. And that's what he's interested in. He doesn't care if he gets laughed at or if he gets eggs on his car. Basically, you're going to build these pyramids at the golden ratio. This is a 51.8 degree angle. And the Egyptians knew this, that you could generate electricity underneath the pyramid naturally. You can generate electricity in a pyramid. And guess what? I'm so into this, we're building the first pyramid in Uruguay. We're starting next week. We're laying the foundation. and was studying it with amethyst crystals. Again, I know it sounds crazy, but we did all the research, and we're actually going to bring up the energy, and we're going to create advanced healing for cancer patients and others with a lot of pain in their body. You can get rid of pain through amethyst. Write down another word. Don't take my word for it. Type in biomat. Biomat. A Korean company made a huge biomat with rolls of crystals in amethyst, and people lay on it. It heats up, infrared heat, and you can actually get rid of pain. But to go back to your pyramid, you want them basically less than 20 feet high. And you'll be like, Simon, that's crazy. Everybody's going to see it. Even the freaking airlines will see it. But make them about 5 feet and put them in an octagonal format. So you'll have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 in an octagonal or hexagonal format. It can be either. So if you want 8 or 6, and you'll start noticing differences in your yields after about 3 to 6 weeks. So, all right, Kevin, I might be out of time. I'll take one last question. One last one. Come on, there's got to be one. Yes, Andy, sir. Okay, so Andy said, tell me about energy vortices and why I live in Uruguay. I got 2 minutes. Energy vortexes are, you might remember the crystal planetary grid map. These are energy vortexes, and the planet is lined with them naturally. Now, if the energy vortex spins up too much, it can create another dimension. And this is what the Hadron Collider does in Geneva, right? Everybody's familiar with the Hadron Collider. Their thing is to find new particles. That's what they tell you. Their real truth is they want to be able to explore dimensional wormholes so that the elite can have a new kind of weapon or a travel response team go to Mars and develop a wormhole between Earth and Mars. It goes very, very deep. But essentially, these energy vortexes, scientifically, are literally columns of energy, electromagnetic energy, that produce about 90% of the world's extreme weather. And due to the sun's solar cycle, you can actually get more and more extremes happening when the solar energy goes down. Why did I move to Uruguay? This is a personal story. Again, another crazy one, but it's true. Who remembers what happened on March 11th, 2011? March 11th, 2011. Fukushima. I'm not swearing at you. Remember the big nuclear radiation? No. There was a big tsunami that hit Fukushima, and the radiation went across the Pacific, and the US government turned off all of the radiation sensors on the West Coast. Again, just research it, go back. They turned them off. It came across my desk. I said, why did they turn them off? I was in an internal meeting. Oh, because they monitored a lot of strontium and tritium. I said, strontium and tritium, those are radioactive isotopes. Yeah, it's coming into California, it's coming into Montana. Oh my God. I thought, okay, I got 2 kids, 3 and 5 at the time. What else can you find me? So we did some digging around, and because of me being in command of a meteorological agency, I started getting all the papers together from the government that were level 10, level 12 out of that 37 set that weren't in the public dissemination. And I said, oh my God, the public is being duped. They don't know radiation's coming into the US. And by the way, if you want another thing to look up, 3 months ago, they just found these radioactive isotopes from Fukushima in California wine. But we don't know, right? Because CNN is talking about cuckolding and all the other BS. That's not important. I mean, it may be for some, but what's important is agriculture, our future, our children, And that's what I want to leave it. That's why I went down, Andy, to Uruguay, because I wasn't escaping, but I wanted to set a precedent, and I wanted to show people, if I go down there and I make it, I want to come back and report it. And the Van Tramp team allowed me to do that today. So thank you again. Thank you.
Appreciate it.
Thank you. Good luck.
I think we're going to take a quick break here. And, you know, Simon is great, interesting, strange. Andy and I have some friends, super wealthy, and we're sitting at dinner one night, and Simon and them are hitting it off, and Andy and I are looking at each other like, what in the hell are they talking about? And the place in Cabo, this family, like the Hooties, they only buy property. And Andy and I always say, this guy's got a golden horseshoe. I mean, this guy, anything he touches usually turns to gold. And some of the other people, and they believe in these vortexes, and there's certain vortexes in the United States and vortexes in other areas. Where Cabo, down where his place is in Cabo, that's why he bought it there. And there are other famous people in Sedona and places that we know, famous investors, and they only like to buy things or live around these vortexes. And I don't know enough about it. It's like, you know, sometimes you're in a place where the tree's twisted and
That's it. That's
yeah,
it.
and it's weird how it goes. Simon walks around with an app on his phone that tells him the magnetism. You know, so when he's in Kansas City, he's like, nah, negative energy. Isn't that right, Simon?
Yeah. Well, in fact, you know, I've got these rocks, you know, that
Oh, no.
basically. You want to inspect this little puppy
Yeah,
here?
what's this? Yeah, okay. What's that?
So this is a basic crystal rock that will deflect any positive ions from interrupting your energy field. So the more we learn about these things, you know, it's really fascinating how we can actually be the best version of ourselves by augmenting our health electromagnetic
But
aura.
you can, there are apps you can download if you are buying property and tell the magnetism.
That's it.
I'm serious. I mean, it's crazy. And he set me up on the apps. It's a weird deal. I mean, I don't know. But
Yeah.
you can definitely tell the magnetism is different in places we've purchased or different things. You
Really?
see different outcomes because of it. So,
Yeah.
I mean, it definitely opens your mind. I mean, it's a little, seems crazy at first, but like I said, you know,
Right.
I appreciate it here.
Yeah.
If anyone has any questions, we're going to take about a 10-minute break.